Hello and welcome to Inspiral Out Loud, where Mars and I are chatting about energy today. What are some of the cool things we've seen in the past? We've been chatting about this over the months because there's some interesting ideas that our history has unfurled, such as the pyramids and so on. What are some of the things in that realm that have interested you?
I've always been fascinated by the pyramids because in terms of structures in ancient Egyptian times, they don't make a lot of sense. At least not from the conventional perspective of archaeology and history. They were considered to be tombs for so long and still are by the mainstream historians, but that's proven to be completely false. The three main pyramids, the infamous ones in Giza, which reflect a pattern of the constellation Orion, for whatever reason, if you look on the inside of those, anyone who goes there and looks, or just pull up a video, you'll see it. There are no hieroglyphs anywhere. There are no symbols or markings inside those things. And yet you go to any temple and you go to any smaller pyramid that actually was a burial pyramid. There are symbols there. There are hieroglyphs everywhere. But the pyramids are they're devoid of those things. They look more like machines of some description to me. And those who look into the technology that was used to build those things must have been a lot more, let's just say, less primitive than historians would like us to believe. They're incredibly well-engineered constructions. Very exotic and strange. For example, they just happen to be, they can work as capacitors because you've got two different types of stone that are used to build them. And if even conventional physics will verify that those two stones, granite and sandstone, can form an electrical capacitor. They're also built on a type of bedrock that is believed to be located in a place where, when the pyramids were first built, it was right along the Nile River. Yeah. So you had a lot of water flowing through this bedrock, through lots of little cracks and crevices throughout. And when you start delving into what happens with water when it's flowing in particular ways, you start noticing strange behaviors. I don't know if you've ever done this little experiment, but I learned this when I was a teenager. If you get a very slow but steady stream of water coming out of a tap, very, very thin stream, so it's almost stopped but not quite, and you say get a screwdriver or any sort of metallic object and you start putting it near the stream, just very, very close, you'll start to see the stream bends around its standard pathway, excuse me, of just dropping straight to the ground. Why is that? Why does water do that? Because it's got nothing to do with airflow and using air to bend the flow. It's got nothing to do with that. And it works with things that are not even statically charged. So it's not static electricity that's doing it. Something peculiar is going on there. And although no one has proven this definitively, because of course, how do you restart the flow of water going underneath all the bedrock into those pyramids? Well, that can't be achieved at this point. But I do know that there were reports from people in history. For example, the famous Aleister Crowley did an expedition to ancient Egypt, and he actually climbed the Great Pyramid before you were forbidden to do it, and took up with him a contraption that proved that there was actually a massive amount of electricity, even without the flow of water, that produced such a strong charge it actually flung one of his assistants off the construction.
Really? Wow.
Mm. So
Interesting.
something's going on there.
Mm. There's a lot of really interesting ideas and potentials around archaeology, and we've both been reading Max Egan's book in the last chunk of time, and he's got so many different examples of old archaeological finds that are, even in this day and age, impossible. We just don't currently have the technology to be able to generate those objects, and these were found in periods of rock and so on that are potentially millions, if not billions of years old. And so it kind of suggests or speaks to the fact that we have been in a cycle of technology before, and possibly many times. And Matt Belair, I was watching an interview with him on collective evolution a while ago, and his background's more as a coach, but he's spent a lot of time with Native Americans that have carried down the traditions of their ancestors for a long time. And a lot of those people speak about different forms of technology that they've received, say, patterns or instructions for, such as there was one that a very simple piece of technology, but it generates the frequency. I think, is it 300 hertz that is the same frequency of the Earth?
No, it's a lot lower than that. It's it changes. It's called the Schumann resonance, and it
Right.
cycles between, I believe the measured cycles in history have been jumping between 7 and 13 cycles a second. It was somewhere around there, and it was pretty low.
Okay. Right.
Mm.
Okay. Me and electricity, we're not such good friends. But you turn this thing on or plug it in, essentially plug it into the ground, or however it works. He wasn't actually able to share the information of it for obvious reasons. But he said, I know what the 300 was. He said it creates a field that's about 300 meters wide that acts as kind of like an energetic field, that then anything within it, it will reset that back to the frequency of the Earth. So if you're, somewhere, say in a city where you're being bombarded by EMFs and microwaves and Wi-Fi and all of the things, you can plug this thing in and it acts as a shield. And he asked, well, why aren't you making these things and distributing them? And he was told on more than one occasion by more than several different people just saying, look, if we bring this out, we'll be gone. And so it's really needing that critical mass, and that our entire system of governance, or lack thereof, to change basically in order to be able to generate that kind of stuff safely. So we know that the ideas and possibilities are definitely out there.